I expected stronger legs after 30 days of running. But what I wasn't expecting was my brain to start behaving differently. I ran every single day for 30 days. I wasn't trying to become disciplined. I just wanted to know what would happen to my head. Day 1 was bad. I went out expecting the version of this from every running video. A little discomfort, and then a montage-worthy breakthrough where I become the running guy. Well, that feeling lasted about, 6 minutes. I'd started too fast, my chest was doing something it shouldn't, and I was cramping enough to stop on the sidewalk and think, I can't believe people do this voluntarily. But the part that actually surprised me wasn't physical. It was how loud my own head got. You see, every single thought had an opinion. Oh, slow down. Oh, skip tomorrow. You're not built for this. This is pointless. I'd gone in expecting motivation. What I got instead was resistance, and I don't mean the kind you push through in 20 minutes. Days 2, 3, and 4 were the same. I remember sitting on the couch, thinking about the run longer than the run would actually take. Running didn't feel therapeutic, it felt annoying. But that wasn't the part that stayed with me. What stayed with me was realizing the hardest part of this experiment was never going to be running. It was going to be convincing myself to start. Every single day became a small argument with myself, and for the first week, I was losing most of them. By around day 7, I started waiting for the thing every runner talks about, the runner's high. That mythical moment where your body floods with endorphins and suddenly everything feels incredible. Well, it never came. And when it didn't, the whole experiment started to feel different. And that sent me down a strange little rabbit hole. You see, for decades, runner's high was blamed almost entirely on endorphins, until people started questioning whether endorphins can even get into the brain in meaningful amounts. A 2015 study out of Heidelberg, published in PNAS, found that when researchers blocked cannabinoid receptors in mice, the calming, pain-dulling effects of running disappeared completely. Block the opioid receptors instead, and nothing changed. So one of the strongest current explanations is that endocannabinoids, your body's own version of THC, are doing a lot more of this work than endorphins ever were. Now, nobody's saying endorphins do nothing, but the calm I was waiting for might not come from the chemical I'd always heard about. And that actually matched what I was feeling, not just in the way I expected. I never finished a run wanting to high-five a stranger. Nothing about it was euphoric. What happened instead was quieter. Somewhere in the middle of certain runs, my thoughts just stopped sticking. The problems were still there. The stress was still there. But my grip on it all loosened a little. I wasn't happier per se, I'd just stopped arguing with myself. Now, that sounds like a small difference, but it didn't feel small. And then one run changed how I thought about the entire experiment. Day 17, cold morning. Not brutal, but just cold enough that staying inside felt like a completely reasonable life choice. I was already dressed. Shoes on, watch on, standing by the door. And I still didn't want to go. No injury, no real excuse really, just resistance. The same resistance from day 1. Fully intact, 17 days in. I stood there longer than I'd like to admit before I finally walked out. Minutes 5, 10, 20, all annoyed. If anything, I was even more annoyed than when I started. Nothing magical was happening, and I remember thinking this was just going to be one of those runs. And then somewhere around minute 28, something shifted. Now, I don't mean emotionally, mentally. I realized I hadn't thought about my phone once. I hadn't mentally drafted any emails. I wasn't replaying a conversation from 3 days ago. For the first time in what felt like months, my attention was in exactly one place. Left foot, right foot, breathing. That was the whole world. Now, this might be the first uninterrupted half hour I've had in months. And honestly, that thought stayed with me longer than the run did. No breakthrough, no lightning bolt, just quiet. But those 30 seconds of noticing stuck with me harder than any fast time I ran that month. Because it made me wonder if running wasn't making me stronger. Maybe it was just training my attention to stay in one place. Now, somewhere around week 3, something else changed. And I almost missed it because it didn't feel dramatic at all. I stopped deciding whether I was going to run. I just ran. Early on, every single run was a negotiation, a debate I had to win against myself before I could even get out of the door. But by week 3, that debate mostly disappeared. Shoes on, out the door, done. And strangely, that started showing up in other parts of my life as well. Hard tasks at work got easier to start. I checked my phone less. I noticed myself sitting with annoying, difficult tasks instead of bailing on them every 10 minutes. Now, at first, I figured I was probably imagining it. Then I came across the term BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. It's a protein that helps the brain build and strengthen new connections, especially active in the hippocampus, the part that handles memory and mood. And research on aerobic exercise has repeatedly linked higher BDNF levels with the kind of neuroplasticity that makes the brain easier to adapt. Now, not optimize, just adapt. I mean, I don't think that means running upgraded my brain. That framing feels a little too self-help for what actually happened. I didn't become smarter, I just became less mentally sticky. This is also where the experiment started feeling uncomfortable. You see, by week 3, heading into week 4, the streak stopped feeling exciting and started feeling important. And those are not the same thing. Missing a run stopped feeling like rest. It started feeling like a failure. I caught myself rearranging my schedule around the run, checking the weather obsessively, not because I wanted to run that day, but because I did not want to break the chain. I stopped running because I wanted to. I started running because not running felt wrong. Now, I don't have a clean way to resolve that sentence. Healthy things can turn into that too, not just bad habits. The runs themselves weren't harder by week 4. The obligation was. And I don't know whether 30 days of running changed something in my brain or whether I just traded one compulsion for a slightly healthier looking one. I'm still not sure those are actually different things. So here's where I landed after 30 days. I wasn't enlightened. I wasn't endlessly motivated. I wasn't even happier, exactly. My actual problems were all still there waiting for me on day 31. But discomfort felt small. My attention lasted longer before it wandered. Thoughts still showed up and invited, but they didn't take over as fast. Bad days recovered quicker, not because the running fixed anything, but because I stopped treating every uncomfortable feeling like an emergency that needed solving immediately. Running didn't solve my problems. It changed my relationship with them. And that ended up mattering more than I actually expected. And if I'm being completely honest, that's the part I'm still figuring out. The running helped. I just don't know whether it helped because I ran or because I refused to stop.